I was excluded from everything by my pregnant wife, and she gave preference to my daughter for my previous marriage. I finally lost my cool and shouted some terrible things. It turned out that she was afraid of being a member of my family, and that she compared herself to my previous partner. My wife is 26 years old, and I am 30 years old. I have been married to my wife for a period of 4 years. From a prior relationship, I have a child who is 5 years old. During my time in college, I was in my first long-term relationship, and my daughter, Leah, is 5 years old. We ended our relationship not long after she was born, because my girlfriend at the time admitted to having been unfaithful, and that she was not prepared to start a family. My wife is cherished by my daughter. Both are inseparable together. With the exception of causing the occasional drama, my ex-partner does not have much of an impact on either my daughter or I. My wife is her mother in all intents and purposes, because she did not want any custody or visiting time. She did not want any of these things. She is approximately 8 months along in her pregnancy. She has excluded me from the entirety of the pregnancy, but she refuses to acknowledge that there is anything wrong. It hurts me to feel like I am utterly disregarded. I was in the middle of preparing breakfast when she broke the news to me that she was expecting our first child. Without a doubt, I was overjoyed. But because it was an unanticipated pregnancy, I inquired about how she was feeling at the beginning of the pregnancy. Suddenly, she broke down in tears and smiled, expressing how thrilled she is. I took her up, kissed her a million times, and told her that I was just as eager to have a baby as she was, and that she would be an amazing mother. Is that how it goes? When she made the announcement to everyone else, she went all out. These include t-shirts, nicest big sister mugs, balloons and boxes, and more. It was my assumption that she wanted to know how I felt about expanding our family before we celebrated, which is why she made the casual announcement with me. Nevertheless, when her sister inquired about how I enjoyed my box, my wife promptly said that he did not get one, and that this is not his first time doing anything like this. To get her to let me go to the ultrasound appointments was such a struggle that it felt like I was pulling teeth. Her goal was to prevent me from missing work. Despite the fact that I had numerous excuses, I did not want to disrupt Leah's routine. After hearing the heartbeat, my wife immediately began crying happy tears. She was overjoyed. Man, by the news. The technician was going on and on about how powerful the heartbeat was, how lovely our little one was, and other things like that. When I realized that I was getting emotional, I cleared my throat in an effort to keep from crying. Aw, Dad, doesn't that sound just stunning? The technician replied. Almost immediately, my wife stated that this is not his first child and that it is not very significant for him. Instantaneously, I said that this is without a doubt one of the most significant moments of my life. As far as I can tell, there is nothing more remarkable. It was obvious that the atmosphere was uneasy after that. While I was in the kitchen preparing supper, I turned around and heard Leah and my wife's mother laughing in the living area. This was another thing that worried me. Leah was rubbing my wife's stomach and laughing with joy that the baby was moving, and that it would be so cute when I went in and asked what the fuss was about. I was surprised to see her doing this. My wife let my daughter and Mill to experience the movement of the baby before I did. I expressed how thrilled I was despite the fact that I was heartbroken. Later on that evening, my wife was giggling and poking her belly at the same time. You felt Leah move when she was a newborn, she remarked in response to my request that she feel as well. What could possibly be improved upon that? Although she has been experiencing some discomfort throughout her pregnancy, she is certain that she will not allow me to assist her. She was the sweetest baby ever. She will provide our kid whatever she brings to her, whether it is a snack or a drink. She will urge me to play with our kid if I try to stroke her feet or legs. This is done to ensure that she does not feel as though she is being treated differently or disregarded. As a matter of fact, I do not disregard my daughter. Despite the fact that I am an active dad, I want to adore my wife. We have time to spend together. Even though she has a hard time eating, when I asked her what I could make for her, she said that I could make whatever Leah wants. While my wife and I were at the zoo with Leah, she began to have some discomfort. Because she was experiencing cramps, she was contemplating going to the hospital. Severe nausea and lightheadedness are present. While I was carrying her to a nearby bench, she started crying and pointing out that she is unable to even stand up. When she asked me to call an ambulance, I informed her that I would carry you to the car and drive you there. We didn't even make it to the aviary, which was Leah's favorite part of the trip, since she informed us that she didn't want to ruin Leah's vacation. Whenever she requested me to continue going through the zoo with Leah, I responded by saying that I would not be leaving. After waiting for a bit, her father finally arrived. She didn't even bother to let me know that he was coming, and he whisked her to the doctor. I was taken aback, and I followed them with Leah. When we arrived, Leah was irritated and had a pout on her face because she had missed the aviary. During that time, my primary concern was for the well-being of both my wife and the unborn child. In all honesty, I didn't care. Leah became agitated. When I made Leah miss out on anything, my wife became annoyed. To give you another illustration, we were watching Leah compete in a kid's sport in the area. "Do you believe that our child will have an athletic ability?" I asked her. "Is it artistic? Do you take pleasure in mathematics or science? It is not appropriate to make this moment about someone who is not even present," she remarked, "because this is Leah's moment." During the time that we were in the stands, Leah was playing on the field. In addition to waving at her and holding up a sign for her, we had done everything else. Regarding our child, I only wanted to talk about it. Her bump would always be on display for anyone who was interested in taking a look at it, even when it was fairly noticeable. This includes her family, friends, siblings, and other relatives. "Would you like to see my newborn baby?" I am very ecstatic, and I can't believe that there are just a few more weeks left. Every one of them touches her bump, talks to it, and so on. When she was younger, her parents would visit her and read or tell stories to her. What do they do at the beach? There are 1,000 images of her bump that have been uploaded on the social media accounts of her acquaintances. She is so excited to be an honorary auntie that her sister's wife puts the B in bump and beautiful. "Is it possible for us to go out together?" That is why I don't notice it, because she wears the loosest clothes. Whenever she notices that I have entered the room, she will even pull her top down to her stomach. And the other day, after she had been playing with me in bed, she sat on me. "You are the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. You are already a wonderful mother to Leah, and I can't wait to see you as our family grows." Her bump was directly in front of my face, and I ran my hands up it and said, "You are the most beautiful woman I see," when I was able to feel her bump for the first time. It was one of the first times I had the opportunity to do so. I laid my hand on it and told her, "I love you so much already, and I is so excited to meet you. Hopefully you have the eyes of your mother." She shifted her weight away from me and added, "I know my ex-partner had a bigger bump than I do, and I bet it was fun to watch Leah move around all the time. There is no need for you to pretend that you care. I am aware that you have done this before." My response was that I do not consider it to be that way. This is a completely new and distinct kind of wonderful, since it was with Leah, and our kid was someone who was completely new and amazing. Leah is remarkable, but this is a special all its own. During the time that she was leaving the room, I could see that her shoulders were shaking from crying. Without a doubt, I say yes, her behavior is not dishonest, nor has it ever been. The reason why she does not want me to be glad about this is something that I simply cannot wrap my head around. During the remaining period, everything is absolutely normal. The fact that she is affectionate and initiates intimacy is contingent upon my not bringing up the baby. I boast about how wonderful I am as a husband and how much of a difference I've made in this pregnancy. We made plans for the future, we went on date nights, and we did plenty of other things. It's unfortunate that we got into a quarrel, and I lost my temper. Because I was taking a break between clients at work, I went to a baby store in the neighborhood and purchased a lot of the items that she had planned for the baby in the nursery that she had posted on her Pinterest board. In addition to the baby supplies, I surprised her by bringing her flowers, a certificate for a prenatal massage, and her favorite food. I also brought the baby items. Despite the fact that she appeared to be quite appreciative, the products were no longer present when I returned home. Editors, it is likely that they meant when he returned home after returning to work once more. She stated that she had returned it in order to purchase something for Leah because she was going to feel excluded. I really lost it. I cried for the first time in our marriage, and I yelled that having a child with her was the biggest mistake I've ever made, and that at least my deadbeat ex-wife gave me the opportunity to get to know my unborn child. Since she told me that I didn't care about the baby because she wouldn't even let me bond with it, I have come to realize that I do care about the baby. That I hope she was as wretched as she made me, and that she had better be ready for a custody struggle. She is a hymn for Leah. I hope she was as miserable as she made me. As a matter of fact, she stated, "I am aware that you do not care about the baby, but I will die before you take my baby away from me. What is it?" Several times I have pleaded with her to allow me to interact with her and our child. I inquired as to whether or not her therapist had any understanding pertaining to the reasons for her behavior. Her response was negative, but she is not taking any action. She responded by saying that I had already had those experiences, therefore it shouldn't make a difference. I told her everything I had mentioned above. I asked her whether the baby was mine, and she responded by throwing her phone at me and saying, "Yes, go through it. I knew that the baby was mine, and I was just being rude. No matter what you require, I will perform a paternity test." During the time when we were having a quarrel, I just called her parents and asked them to come to our house. We proceeded to a hotel to discuss the situation. I do not want to put her or our unborn child through any unnecessary stress. And although I really want to fix this, I'm staying at an Airbnb for the time being until we can figure out what's going on. I'm really not sure how I'm going to achieve it. But in all honesty, I have no idea what to do. When I think about how much I miss her, I can't even begin to comprehend the reasons why she would want to act in such a manner. I am sorry for what I said, but I am unable to take back what I said. I am concerned about whether or not she will want to be a family with me or allow me to have any involvement with our baby after it is born. I have apologized for what I said. I had a conversation with a friend of ours who shared that she is in a great deal of distress and that she cannot be a single mother because she loves me. However, her behaviors continue to demonstrate that she does not love me, even when I beg for her to change. Do you have any comments? Why did you say such things? The reason I said those things was because I wanted to harm her in the same way that she has been hurting me. Oops. I was downvoted. That is the simplest explanation. I deeply regret doing so. My apologies are extended. It has been repeatedly conveyed to me that you should not be concerned about it. To add insult to injury, I told her everything I could think of to upset her. I was acting in a manner that was both immature and childish, and it was a knee-jerk reaction. To be honest, I had no intention of saying any of that. Leave a comment for her, and yes, I do comprehend the root of your anger. Does she provide an explanation for why she has been making those statements? Having resentment is a peculiar emotion. She might not have even been aware that she had it until she became pregnant. But I believe that if that was something that she had been experiencing, then it is something that she ought to have discussed with either you or your therapist. Oh no, there's it. I've been pleading with her to discuss it with me a lot. What do you think her reaction was when I informed her that we could go to counseling together? She sobbed and inquired as to whether or not I was sad about our marriage. My response was no, and I'd like to have a more active role in this pregnancy with you. I have been left in the dark by you. I inquired as to whether or not she was dissatisfied. Was she interested in getting a divorce? Have she made up her mind that she does not want this baby? Additional tears are shed. You appear to be in genuine pain. I would even consider that. It doesn't make any sense to me, and it seems like I should just give up and watch from the sidelines. Comment on her. Is it possible that she harbors resentment for your child who is 5 years old? And how would you describe your relationship with Leah's mother? Wow, I really don't believe that she harbors any resentment. My 5-year-old is completely smitten with her, and I believe that she is the most preferred parent. In addition to taking care of her when she is ill and organizing our vacations around my 5-year-old daughter's interests, she takes her to the park, museums, and makes sure that she and I paint together. She never misses school events, and she makes sure that she and I paint together. She never misses school events, and she makes sure that she has muffins with her mother. My wife completely freaked out and said that we don't use titles around here that make us feel like we aren't one family. Her cousin had mentioned something about not bringing her stepdaughter before, and because of this she thought it was inappropriate. There is no other way to describe her. She is my daughter, and she will not be excluded in any way. We went on a short trip to visit some of her family when she was first pregnant, and she cried every day about how much she missed Leah after we got back. She has been attending therapy for anxiety and depression ever since we first met, but it is abundantly clear that it is not helping her. At her doctor's appointment, I brought up the topic of prenatal depression. However, she does not match my expectations because she is overjoyed, unless I specifically bring up the baby or the pregnancy itself. The comment that they should just get a divorce and not see an attorney because it is highly likely that he will not be allowed to attend the birth of the child was not well received. There is no doubt that I have a fear of it in the back of my mind. Leah will undoubtedly be in utter disbelief. Due to the fact that I have already witnessed the birth of my child, my wife has already expressed her desire to have her mother present in the delivery room. Furthermore, she believes that my presence in the room would only serve to embarrass her. Remark to her that the two of you need to seek couples therapy right away. After her first or second comment, you should have started it, because you've known for months that something wasn't quite right. Moreover, you should call her OB and explain the situation to her. You should request that they keep a record of the change in her behavior, as well as emphasize the fact that she has never done anything like this before becoming pregnant. Oops, I should have known better. I foolishly presumed that it was due to hormones and other problems that are associated with pregnancy. She was unwell throughout the majority of her pregnancy, and during that time she actually lost weight. She was often hungry, but she was unable to eat, and she developed a strong sense of self-consciousness about her physique. Despite the fact that she is doing much better today, and is at a healthy weight, I honestly believe that things would look up from here. With the benefit of hindsight, it is much simpler to recognize that the initial few comments were more profound than that. As a commenter, I don't see why you would spew all that nonsense. Without a doubt, she was behaving in a really strange manner, but you really screwed up. Just now, you said something that is absolutely terrible and could not possibly be forgiven. You appeared to be such a good-natured individual. Oh, I am a complete moron. I have apologized for my mistake, but I don't think it matters much to her at this point in time. I did mess up. I said all I could think of to damage her feelings. The resentment had been building up for some months, after months of pleading with her to let me in, to let me think of baby names with her, and to tell me what's going on. She finally gave up today. That was me, and I am still in pain. My heart bleeds when I think of the possibility of dividing custody of my child, because I would love to be there for her and be a full-time father to my child. I hope that it is possible to restore it. An update. It has been around 1 month since I last updated. Due to the fact that a large number of helpful Redditors came out to me, they provided me with guidance, offered their experiences, and requested for an update of the situation. I ended up calling my fill after I had blogged and stewed for a short while, as well as after I had had a few of beers. My wife and I have a really tight relationship, and I appreciate his viewpoint so much. He has been married for a very long time, and it appears like he is having a great marriage. Additionally, he appears to have strong ties with his family in many aspects. I didn't go into detail about the problems that we were experiencing, but the fact that he was living at my house while I was staying in an Airbnb made it very clear that we were experiencing difficulties. He has a marriage that is more conventional, and at one point he asked me what I had to lose by putting pressure on her to communicate. I told him that I was afraid I would drive her farther away, and he basically told me that I was living in a different house than my pregnant wife, freaking out over the possibility of a divorce. And what did I have to lose? The advice that he gave me was to act like a man and return to my home in order to put it on the line. I informed him that I would be coming over the following day. They inquired as to whether or not they might stay the night at their residence while also taking Leah out to purchase some sparklers for the impending holiday. I gave my consent, and the next day, when I returned to my house, I brought flowers and an assortment of ingredients to prepare dinner. I responded to my wife's question about what I was doing there by saying that I lived there and that I would want to have a conversation with her. I apologized extremely profusely for both my conduct and my remarks. I responded that it was her turn to tell me what was going on when I had finished what I was doing, in an attempt to declare that nothing was wrong and that everything was fine. I eventually told you that my heart is broken, that we have been through some difficult things together, and that we have fought for each other, and now you sit here and lie to my face. I mentioned this quite a while ago. The two of us sat there, together, and she cried for approximately half an hour before she finally admitted that she had the impression that our relationship would come to an end if she was honest. In spite of everything, I assured her that I would listen to what she had to say. It was difficult for her to cope with the fact that this would be her first child, and not mine. She didn't believe that it would affect her, and it didn't bother her until she became pregnant and she was lying in bed at night thinking about how, if my ex-boyfriend had chosen to raise Leah, we would still be a family together and she wouldn't matter. She mentioned that when she saw me becoming emotional about our baby, especially when I wanted to touch her belly or treat her, it made her think of me and my ex-girlfriend, as well as the fact that I had already done all of the things that she was looking forward to doing with me. She was experiencing a lot of feelings very close to the beginning of her pregnancy. When she informed a close friend that she couldn't wait to have a baby with her soulmate, her friend responded by saying that she didn't believe soulmates had other children or baby moms, and that it was two people who were supposed to be together forever. I was asked if I believed that we were soulmates in the same way that she did. She was quite upset. In her description of herself and our unborn child, she referred to them as my sloppy seconds family. She said that no one ever grew up fantasizing of having children by more than one person. The fact that she was merely a stand-in for the family I want in the event that it did not materialize. He also said that she had seen some old pictures of my ex-boyfriend on social media, and that she was unable to stop comparing her pregnant physique to those pictures. Her concern was that the infant would not be able to compete with Leah in my eyes. When I would ask her what she thought the baby would be like, she would get anxious. She would worry about what would happen if the baby had a disability, if the baby did not enjoy doing the things that we enjoyed doing as a family, or if the baby and Elle did not get along with each other. She mentioned that there was a time when she found herself wishing that she had never had Leah, so that she wouldn't have to worry as much. It was at that moment that she made the realization that she needed to put in a lot of extra effort in order to keep a relationship with Leah. In the articles that she read online, it was said that fathers did not bond with their children until they were able to do activities with the family. She was afraid that I would not have the opportunity to bond with the kid because of my full-time job and my relationship with Leah. When I did make an effort to form a bond with the infant, she expressed concern that the infant would not be able to live up to Leah's standards. I have never been bashful about expressing how much being a father means to me, and how the most memorable experience of my life has been the process of raising my daughter, Leah, as well as getting married to my wife, and now having our child together. She stated that it was initially what gave her the confidence to marry me, and she was delighted to have a large family with me. However, she now continually pondered whether her pregnancy and this baby will be a highlight or a burden for me, because the stress is the same, but the newness is not. What if, on the other hand, a newborn and later a toddler would not be as intriguing to me as Leah, who is capable of engaging in activities? She presented me with a multitude of papers in which many fathers said that they did not form a link with their children until they were at least 4 years old. In addition to that, she showed me the movies in which individuals talk about the things they did with their first child, and how they find themselves becoming more relaxed as they have additional children. She stated that it frightened her, because it was obvious that individuals stopped caring whenever they got a greater number of family members. She stated that there were times when she had the impression that she was bringing our family to ruin and putting space between Leah and I. For instance, she mentioned that she shed tears on the way to the hospital while she was visiting the zoo. She feared that Leah would despise her and feel resentment toward the baby because she had cut our time at the zoo short. In addition, that I would be dissatisfied with the fact that I would be spending my time off from work at the hospital rather than engaging in the activities that we had planned with Leah. During the time that I am at work, my wife and I spend a lot of time outside of the house, going to places like the library and parks in the neighborhood. Bike riding together is one of their favorite activities, and we also ride bikes together on the weekends. There are a lot of trails in the area, but she has not been allowed to go on any of them because she is pregnant. Our activities have been moving more toward the indoors. My wife mentioned that when I was at work, Leah would constantly complain about how much she disliked her since she didn't get to ride her new bike as much as she used to. I assured her that I would talk about it with her, simply because that cannot be tolerated. I was asked by my wife not to because there would be a lot of changes coming up for Leah in the near future, and it was painful for her because she missed riding bikes with me as well. A number of months ago, my wife inquired as to whether or not Leah and I would be interested in attending a story time together. My wife chose the second story, which was her favorite story from her childhood, for me to read to the baby and Leah since it helps boost brain activity and helps with bonding. Leah chose the first story that I read, and my wife chose the second story. Afterwards, I read another book that Leah had selected for me to read. The following day, while I was at work, Leah tore the pages out of the book that my wife had selected. Her friend, the same friend who claims that we are not soulmates, told her that I would believe she was making it up, and that it seemed to her that she was attempting to become between me and Leah. She said that she was going to tell me, but her friend denied that statement. I asked her why she didn't tell me any of this, and she explained that she didn't feel comfortable telling me because her thoughts didn't even make sense to her. She wanted me to spend time with Leah so that she wouldn't feel left out or jealous, and when I did spending time with her, she felt upset that I wasn't spending more time with her. Leah is her favorite, but she wishes that we could have our first child together. However, she is disturbed and guilty whenever I offer her attention to our unborn child, despite the fact that she wants me to be around, she stated. That she was concerned that I would believe that she was attempting to put a barrier between me and Leah, when in fact she was not. By the time I became aware that something was seriously wrong, I began to inquire about the nature of the problem, whether or not she needed counseling, and other related questions. She stated that she was aware that she was behaving in an inappropriate manner, but she did not want to admit to herself that she had missed out on a lot of opportunities with me, and that she had doubled down because it was difficult to confront the fact that she had made her fears a reality by pushing me away and not allowing me to care. She also stated that she was unable to start over, and that her first pregnancy was a somewhat negative experience due to her own actions. I had just come to the realization that I had been a bad person. I expressed my regret for giving her the impression that she was unable to approach me with any concerns. During her investigation into her emotions, she discovered a number of online forums in which individuals were describing the poster as a bad person because of their feelings regarding their stepchild. She was concerned that I would have the same emotions. She stated that if I had told her how I felt about Leah, because she felt the same way about Leah, it would have caused her to become angry and sad, and she couldn't understand how I could not feel the same way. Both of us shed tears for a considerable amount of time. It was my attempt to reassure her. I expressed to her how much I looked forward to seeing her, how delighted I was, and how much I loved her. She was the family that I chose and my soulmate, that the world understood that Leah and I needed her, and that the conditions that permitted us to be a family were because of the fact that she was my soulmate. She expressed regret for the manner in which she had treated me and stated that she intended to make things right. When she noticed that I had yelled, she understood that she might have made a mistake that was beyond repair in order to evoke that reaction from me. She stated that she had meant to apologize when I was about to have my meltdown, but she was surprised when I raged. After a considerable amount of time had passed, she inquired as to whether or not I would like to touch the infant. My response was, of course, yes, and we shed even more tears. It was a wonderful evening that turned out to be. We had a good chuckle over how I was so worried out that I resorted to Reddit for help as I was preparing supper for us. When she finally got around to reading the post, she burst into tears once more. I gave her the assurance that we will be able to move on from this. And she mentioned that she felt less terrible as she read some of the comments made by other ladies who were in her position. After spending so many months in a state of tension, the first week was a little bit odd. The fact that she woke me up by whispering, "Baby wants blueberry pancakes," that Saturday was the moment I realized that things were beginning to turn around. I don't think I've ever made pancakes so quickly that I couldn't look away from the smile that was plastered across my face. A few days later, we ended up attending to a pool party that was being held. Moreover, she allowed me to select her swimwear, which was a significant gesture for someone who only wore loose-fitting clothes around me. The universe is definitely on my side because on the way home she asked me to feel her belly, and our kid was hiccuping, which was something I had never felt before, and it was a first that we could celebrate together. Additionally, we snapped pictures of our family to commemorate this momentous occasion. She has even provided me with the opportunity to assist her when she is ill, without citing Leah as an excuse. It has been brought to my attention that when she approaches me with her back turned to me and raises her arm, that is the signal for me to bring her belly up. Currently, I devote a significant amount of time to stroking and conversing with her stomach, as well as rubbing her feet, legs, back, shoulders, and hips. Ha ha ha. She is in a lot of pain all throughout her body at this stage. 500 times it brought tears to my eyes. Being a part of this has been such a fantastic relief. When I was given the assignment to get the most peculiar food items at 2 in the morning, I had no idea what to expect. It would be a wonderful time for me, but for some reason it is. It is still painful to think about how much I lost out on. I suppose it is also a struggle for her. When she comments that a burden has been lifted off of her shoulders and that things are now much easier, she becomes emotional. Moreover, she is irritated because she did not communicate with me earlier. I've been working hard to alleviate some of the guilt that my wife feels. I came across a great number of straightforward solutions. To give you an example, I was able to purchase a pull-behind trailer by going to the bike store in my neighborhood. Now that I have her in that, she is able to make use of a tiny fan and ice packs, and Leah is able to ride her bike once more. For the purpose of spending more time with both of them, I have taken time off from work. Leah's therapist is continuing to state that she is securely tied to both of us, that she values the time that we spend together, that she is doing very well, that some of her behavior was due to another circumstance, which we have resolved, and that she is excited to be a big sister. We are all in treatment together. The possibility that my wife could notice a shift in her attitude was a source of anxiety for her. However, her therapist asserts that she only has one complaint about my wife, and that is that she forgot her candy once, and it took the store a whole 32 minutes to deliver it to her. My wife is currently undergoing treatment in an effort to conquer the unpleasant emotions that she faces. That is, to a considerable extent, where we should be functioning at this moment. We are exerting a great deal of effort in order to finish getting everything ready despite the fact that the time for the baby is slowly approaching. Nevertheless, my wife needs me to provide her with encouragement. She brings up my ex-boyfriend rather frequently, and I've found that it's useful to bring up our first encounter with each other. To give you an example, she will query about specific things and how they were for me. She will also ask how I felt about them. Initially, I will state that I do not wish to engage in that conversation, and then I will shift the focus of the conversation to involve us. Do you recall the time when we lived in our very first house? Your very first trip away? The very first kiss? When is it going to happen? Do you really remember that time? Is that not the case? As a consequence of it, my feelings for you have become even more intense. Are you able to recollect the time when you and Leah made me feel as though I was irrelevant? Even now, I consider that to be one of the most valuable possessions that I possess. I get a sense of sadness whenever I consider the length of time that my wife was in suffering. I am of the opinion that the act of expressing those words aloud deprived her feelings of a considerable amount of potency. When you are going through a period of time that is mentally exhausting, I believe that the majority of people are aware of how painful it is to encounter ideas that do not feel like they are your own. This is especially true when you are going through a prolonged length of time. It would have been a lot more suitable for me to advocate for our relationship and her mental health much sooner. That would have been much more appropriate. I continued to neglect her for a significantly longer period of time, despite the fact that I ought to have been aware that she required aid. I would like to express my gratitude to everyone who reached out to me or provided their guidance. I shared this in great detail with my wife's consent, and she expressed the hope that it will be of assistance to someone who is going through the same experiences that she had. I took her permission to post this. Because these problems concerned my biological daughter, my wife did not believe that she could call out to me because she was battling with feelings of insecurity and with some mental health concerns. She also believed that she could not reach out to me personally. Ella was able to obtain fantastic coaching, and we addressed the matter and came up with a solution to it. These accomplishments were made possible with the assistance of my Phil and all of you. Everything has restored to a state that is generally normal, and I am now in a position to take part in my wife's pregnancy when she becomes pregnant. This follows a period of awkwardness that occurred earlier. It would appear that everyone, including Leah, is doing well medically and is looking forward to the arrival of the baby. Commenter, I am interested in hearing about how your wife is moving forward in relation to the issue that her buddy is going through. Before having a snake inserted into her ear, it would appear that she did not even give any thought to the prospect that she might be experiencing these feelings of insecurity. Unfortunately, we have informed this friend that they are not permitted to visit us at our home. The fact that she is a part of my wife's bigger buddy group makes it tough to decide whether or not to exclude her from the group. Considering that this friend has been going through some difficult circumstances as of late, my wife was having some reservations about the situation. On the other hand, my wife recently had a girls' night and her friends were coming just as I was leaving. That was a very interesting experience. I congratulated her on her gorgeous appearance and wished them a good trip. I also shared my best wishes with them. My wife informed me that a friend had mentioned in front of the entire group that although I may be treating her with care at the present, I will be pursuing her following some changes that occurred after the birth of our child that I will not disclose here. This information was shared with me upon my return. My wife thought that was not only a joke, but she also thought that it was a nasty and inaccurate comment. She thought that it was a ridiculous statement. Because we are going through a time in which we are emotionally vulnerable, it is fairly obvious that this person does not wish for us to be in a good place. I made it quite obvious to my wife that I did not want her to be around, and she concurred with my decision with regard to her presence.